Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And the Goddess of Destiny rerun has arrived with the 777-day celebration. So I figured today would be a good time to start the new video series where I tell you how X meta works and what the funkiness of it is, and we talk about a bunch of substitutions and team building that can go alongside of it. So this is the Gods of Destiny meta. These are the meta units. The Protector Mirren, Bride Shuna is the DPS unit, Soka, Rain, and then the free-to-play Trya, a very, very good free-to-play unit. So this was the full meta, and we will talk about what they do in just a little bit. But as an example, as to what we're going to talk about, I'm going to take you into the beatdown battle and give you a very, very, very brief gameplay preview of how this team is meant to operate in its optimized settings. So we've got everybody plus the Hero 2.0 who is on the rerun banner. I really don't recommend people summon for this team. It looks fun, and it is fun, but it has never been used since it came out, and it's one of the worst performing teams out there. So for the beatdown battle specifically, you do start with a Trya orb change. So there are a few other units that can do this, but it works for her. And pretty much after that, what you're going to be looking for is green orbs. This team is a burst damage, so short form battle, 4 or 5 turns, and green orb focused is what you're going for because of how Mirren and the rest of the team works. Soka is Mirai, the Idolmaster Mirai. She has the same future hand of greens. She's got an attack buff that varies based on how many Gods of Destiny units you have, so it can go up to 45%. Based on Gods of Destiny World of Fantasy, which the entire team is. But Protector Mirren, she essentially has a follow-up attack, right? So causes all orbs in hand to generate light-seeking souls. Makes no sense to you, I know. Damage scaling soul 50%, soul combos 20%. Still makes no difference. I'll explain it. Increases all magic characters' crit rate by 100% for 2 turns. So if you are a magic character, when you activate this, you have guaranteed crits for 2 turns. And then the final part is increases all souls' skill point increase by 100%, also for 2 turns. So everything she does is for 2 turns. So you don't have to use her all the time. You can go a turn without using her. So here, meant to work like this. So we're going to use Shuna to bring in, and we're going to steal some orbs with her, and we're going to guarantee that the next hand is full of greens, and then we're going to use Rain's green buff, because this is buffing all green gauges by 50% and lowering crit resistance. So with this combo right here, we've guaranteed a full hand of Shuna, and the entire next hand will be green orbs. And now we're going to use Mirren, who's going to give us that follow-up attack, the light-seeking souls that it talked about. So now all the orbs have this nice little glow over them. And for every orb that you send, you will generate a follow-up orb. So in this turn where I have 6 orbs to use, I will have 6 more orbs come after it, and you'll see that pop up on the screen. And the damage that this single orb does will do 50% for the follow-up. So if this does 10,000 damage right here, the follow-up will do 5,000 damage. If this does 20,000 damage, it will do 10,000 damage. And if this orb right here is nerfed, so maybe it's only going to do 1,000 damage, that means the follow-up will do 500 damage. So let's go ahead and send it, and you can see all these orbs pop up. It looks really pretty. So boom, 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 and then the 200%. And then whatever, that 200% orb, the final orb will do 50% of that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Boom. So that's how the team works, is you do a lot of burst damage because you have so many orbs to use that it works out fairly well. And then we're back at 100 points because all those orbs had 100% skill point gain, so we're capped out. And because Mirren's buffs last for 2 turns, it doesn't matter that we don't have another one of her because everything is still active. And then we'll use this buff, this buff, this buff, which is, this is a magic buff, this is the attack buff right here, and this is Shuna's own light attack and crit damage. And because we have guaranteed crits from Mirren, this will do a lot of damage. Now, the other part is that, 50% of a normal orb is what Mirren does for the follow-up. For an alt, it is 20%. So If this alt does 100,000 damage, the follow up is going to do 20,000 damage. So let's go ahead and just send it. But we've done the fight. So this does 359,000. So whatever 20% of that does, we would have had that as follow up. And that's how the team is supposed to run. Lots of green orbs to give you a lot of points, to generate more protection gauge because of the rain green buff. That's why. And then lots of follow up attacks will just whittle the enemy down more and more and more. Okay, so now that we've seen how the optimized Goddess of Destiny team runs, let's talk about substitutions for every slot, because this is not a beat down battle video where I have a whole bunch of different team mix-ups. This is literally like, if you want to run a baseline Goddess of Destiny team, this is what you can use. But as far as like wildly different team comps with a different protector, but all these units, like that's not what we're doing here. So we're going on the assumption that you have Protector Mirren and you want to run underneath that leader skill. What other units could you possibly bring that would still make a little bit of sense as far as this team is concerned? So first off, Trya. Like, she's the free-to-play unit. She should be on this team no matter what. So she'll take care of your turn 1 orb change. If you want, you could then bring, like, Dark Anniversary Milim, and you would have a second orb changer, plus you would have an alt buffer. She's not going to be on the Goddess of Destiny team directly, but she will support the rest of the units by giving you a pretty good buff. And since both the Shuna buff and the Soka buff, you're able to hold those in the back, you could use these two buffs early, and that takes care of 50 points right there. And then you just push another turn, and then you can come back and we can use like the alt buff and the rain buff, and you would have enough points for that, and all you would need to do is wait another turn and get, at least, 80 points or something to use both Milim and Rain. So that's certainly an option for you. But if you don't have anybody else, like you have Shuna, because you happen to pull Shuna from the Idol banner, or you got lucky somewhere and you've had her forever, like how else could you build a low-cost, green, efficient team just around these two characters? Well, like I said, you would bring Trya, for one. She's free. But then if we move into kind of low-cost units, the new second anniversary Hinata, she costs 40 points to give an elemental buff. And while Shuna does give herself a 25% light buff, Hinata's giving a 50% buff. So not only could you buff Shuna, but if you have, Rain, if you have Soka, you would also be giving them their water buff or their wind buff as well. So not a terrible substitution there. Her secondary orb, like Future Hand of Oranges, doesn't really make sense here, but you can use it, I guess. Another option would be Swimsuit Shizu. Since you're going to be running Mirren, you're getting the Weakness Strike, so this will just amplify the Weakness Strike, and it's for 2 turns, so you don't have to use it on the nuke. You could use it early, and Shuna would still have it active when you're ready to use all the other, smaller buffs. But, she's not a terrible substitution. The Hero 2.0 has the alt swap ability. She has the resistance down. Like, I had her in the video. She's fine, but she's physical, so she's not getting the guaranteed crits from Mirren. And since she's physical, she's also not giving any additional stats to Shuna, because Shuna wants more magic characters, and she is not a magic character. Same thing with Shizu. She's buffing Fount of Wisdom and World of Fantasy, which I believe Shuna is on World of Fantasy as well. So she's got some stacking attack buffs. I mean, we can check that. Hold on. Companions and Shuna is on World of Fantasy. Yeah, so you could give her some stacking attack buffs. 15, 30, 45% is not out of the realm of possibility. But again, she's physical, not getting the crits, not giving extra stats to Shuna. That kind of is it for the EX characters, because everyone else is high cost kind of stacking kind of damage here. you're giving summer memories, crits, you're terrible, you're not buffing anybody on this team. Vengeance is not something you want to put with the Gods of Destiny team. You could bring Visions of Coleus Rimuru if you really, really wanted to get the rainbow orbs, and that'll get you a lot of gauge for everything. But again, Mirren only she doesn't raise your skill cap. Her buffs last for multiple turns, so it's not direly important to have her always be using a protector version of her. So Rimuru, like you could, but why would you? You could put like Shizuka on the team, alt resistance down, plus the live mode for greens would definitely make a lot of sense. Plus a heal, plus weakness strike. Like Shizuka would probably work fairly well on the Gods of Destiny team. Even I don't think she's actually on Goddess of Destiny. I think one of the other girls is. Where is she? Yeah, she's not. But she's certainly a support option because she has low cost skills, right? So definitely something you can do. But then moving into like the older 5-star units, you could bring Space Yuki. He's got his 25% alt resistance down for 25 points. It's a fairly good skill, and again, you could make use of that. I would easily swap him out for like the Hero 2.0 in the first video if that was, something if I didn't want the alt swap ability. He could work. Light Milim technically is like a blue converter, but she does have an attack buff and a light resistance down skill all coupled into one. So if you were to treat this like you would like the Dark Milim, where you would use this buff after using everything else and push another turn, you could certainly do that. 55 points is a lot, but there are ways around it. Anything else? I'm trying to see here. You could bring the hero for the rewind. It's really funny because how the future hands work and the follow up orbs work. If you if so, let's say you have Sokka, right? And you use rewind, you use Sokka's future hand of green, and you steal 6 Shuna in that turn, and you have Mirren active. So you have 6 Shuna orbs that all have the crit and the follow up, and then the rewind kicks in. And because you have the future hand of greens, all those orbs are going to be green with the follow up with the crit. And so that's turn like 2.5 right there is guaranteed greens full of crit, full of follow ups. And then actually turn 3 comes in and her skill is still active, which means another full hand of green, and the crits and the follow ups are still active. So you can get, I think, was it 36 orbs worth of damage technically if you use the future hand plus the rewind. It can be pretty funny. And if you want some big time follow up damage, that's definitely one way to go about it, is bringing the hero. So she could be a fun option for you. And the crit, you're already getting crit, but the crit resistance down skill, I guess you can use. I think there's a better use than kind of popping a 55 point skill that's doubling up. You could bring Octogram Lumi. She's got low cost permanent alt buff, so 20. You could use it maybe like twice before it gets a little too expensive, maybe 3 times depending on how long your fight's actually going. But what you're really looking for is you're looking for low cost buffs that work well on a green team. And unfortunately, a lot of skills that you can use, especially for the older units, either will not apply to them or they're 55 points or higher. You could bring Leon. He's giving a light buff, but again, she's got her own light buff, and he's 55 points. Not really the best. Alice is giving Pierce, but you don't want to pierce this stage, really. And water resistance down doesn't help anybody here. So there are limited options, but you can bring a certain number of units. You could bring Cleash, right? You could do her 55 point magic resistance down skill. Again, totally feasible, but you'd have to wait, and you have to use that with something else. So if this is the team, if this specific team right here is what you're running, then you've got a light buff, a crit damage buff, an alt buff, and a magic resistance down skill, plus guaranteed crits. I mean, that doesn't sound terrible on paper. Whether or not it's going to help you clear Inferno 3 is a different story, but it's something you can do. Too expensive, too expensive, too expensive, too expensive, physical and physical. I mean, you're the meta, way too expensive, too expensive, too expensive. usable. No, 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 no. No, you're not running an orange team. You could bring second anniversary Shizu. You know, she has the alt resistance down as well, just like Yuki does. Um, and she's got the skill reset, which could come in handy for this team. It could do it. And then too expensive, too expensive, too expensive. Possibilities on these two. So the Gods of Destiny team, because it doesn't raise your skill cap at all, it is pretty limited in its viability and units you can bring. You do have to work around that 100 point skill cap and have a few buffs here and there that can stack and you can hold in the back. That way you don't have to use them on the nuke turn, essentially. But I mean, that's how you're meant to play, is green orbs. So realistically, honestly, bringing you, and then probably bringing like Dark Milim would probably be one of the better comps, because again, you can get Shuna's EX ult pretty easily because she's stealing orbs. You could use her buff and Soka's buff early, and then put Shuna in the back for a turn, get more points, and then when you're ready to nuke, bring Shuna in, and you'd have 80 points for the rain buff and the Milim buff, and you'd do quite a bit of damage. So, hopefully this video helps you understand. I don't know if I'm explaining it very well. This is the first video in the series, so any feedback is appreciated, whether or not this video helped you or whether you want me to expand on a few different things. I will take all comments and I will review them, and we will make this video series better as time goes on. But hopefully that gives you an introduction to how the Gods of Destiny team wants to work. Again, feedback in the comments below, but that's it from me, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.